My mother accuses me of not being as successful as my brother because I don't sponsor his stupid ideas. The moment I stepped into my childhood home, I could already feel the weight of another argument pressing down on me. My mother stood in the hallway, her arms crossed, her expression filled with disappointment. It was a familiar sight. Every visit followed the same pattern: criticism, comparison, and the inevitable blame. She believed my brother was meant for greatness. In her eyes, his failures weren't his own but the result of others refusing to support him. And in this case, the burden had fallen on me. She saw my success as selfish because I refused to fund Adam's latest idea, another doomed business venture that would collapse like all the others before it, and no matter how many times he failed, my mother never stopped believing he was destined to be someone important. Meanwhile, my own achievements were ignored, dismissed as luck or circumstance rather than hard work. To her, I was responsible for his downfall simply because I refused to throw my money into another one of his reckless plans. This wasn't just about money. It was about control, about the roles she had assigned to us long ago. Adam was the dreamer, and I was supposed to be the one who made those dreams possible, no matter the cost. Growing up, the differences between Adam and me were obvious. He was the center of attention, always surrounded by people who laughed at his jokes and admired his confidence. He never had to try too hard. Opportunities seemed to fall into his lap. Teachers excused his missed assignments, our relatives praised his charm, and when he failed at something, there was always someone to pick up the pieces. I was the opposite. I wasn't charming or effortlessly likable. I had to work for everything. While Adam was skipping homework, I was studying late into the night. While he was spending money he didn't have, I was saving every dollar I earned from part-time jobs. I wasn't gifted with natural charisma, so I had to rely on discipline. For a long time, I believed effort mattered more than luck. I thought that if I worked hard enough, my achievements would be recognized. But in our family, it didn't work that way. My mother saw Adam's failures as temporary setbacks, excuses for why he hadn't reached his full potential yet. She never viewed my success as something I had built. It was just a byproduct of stability, something Adam supposedly lacked because no one supported him the way they should. The older we got, the more Adam leaned into that role. He always had a new idea, a new business plan, a new venture that just needed a little money to take off. He never kept a steady job for long, never saved anything, never took responsibility when things went wrong. And every time one of his ventures failed, our mother had a convenient explanation. If only he had more help, if only people believed in him, if only I had done my part as his brother. She refused to see the pattern. I had. The argument escalated the moment my mother brought up money. She believed that if I had supported Adam financially, his businesses wouldn't have failed. To her, his setbacks weren't caused by bad decisions or lack of planning, but by the fact that no one, especially me, had stepped in to help. It didn't matter that he had already burned through loans, favors, and every bit of money anyone had ever given him. It didn't matter that he had left a trail of unpaid debts and broken promises. In my mother's eyes, Adam was a victim of the economy, of bad luck, of other people not doing enough. The worst part was that she wasn't just making excuses for him. She truly believed that I owed him. She saw my refusal as selfishness, as if my success had come at his expense. To her, the only reason I was doing well was because I had refused to share my resources with my own family. She ignored the years I had spent working my way through school while Adam bounced between ideas that never led anywhere. She overlooked the sacrifices I had made to build stability for myself while he lived impulsively, spending money he didn't have. Her disappointment in me was stronger than her disappointment in him. She couldn't accept that her eldest son, the one who had done everything right, refused to take responsibility for the one who had done everything wrong. The conversation circled back to the same accusations. My mother insisted that Adam's failures weren't his fault, that if I had just been more supportive, things would have turned out differently for him. It wasn't enough that I had built my own life through hard work. She wanted me to take responsibility for his, too. She didn't acknowledge the times I had helped in the past, the loans I had given Adam, which he never repaid, the job opportunities one had connected him with, which he either ignored or quit within weeks, the times I had tried to guide him, only to be dismissed as someone who didn't understand what it meant to take risks. I had been expected to step in and catch him every time he fell, but no one had ever done the same for me. When I struggled, no one offered financial help. No one made excuses for me. I had been told to figure things out on my own, to work harder, to push through. Yet Adam was always granted another chance, another excuse, another safety net. The unfairness of it all had bothered me for years, but at some point, I had accepted that I couldn't change it. My mother would always see Adam as the one who needed saving and me as the one who should provide for him. And now, because I refused, she saw me as the problem. The argument didn't stop at money. My mother took it further, blaming me for the distance in the family. She claimed that my refusal to help Adam was tearing us apart, that I was the reason he had struggled for so long. To her, success meant nothing if it wasn't shared, and in her eyes, I had turned my back on my own blood. It didn't matter that Adam had done nothing to earn that help. It didn't matter that he had squandered every opportunity given to him. To her, family came first. Except that rule only ever seemed to apply when Adam needed something. I pointed out, calmly at first, that I had worked for everything I had while Adam had wasted every chance he got. That logic didn't reach her. She dismissed it as luck, as if my stability had simply happened while Adam had been unfairly left behind. She refused to see the truth, that Adam had never put in the effort, that he had expected things to work out for him without actually working for them. Then came the final blow. My mother declared that if I wasn't willing to support Adam, I wasn't welcome in the house. She said it without hesitation, without regret, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. If I wasn't going to act like the son she expected me to be, then I didn't deserve to be part of the family. I had always known she favored Adam, but hearing it so clearly, so definitively, hit differently. The moment she said I wasn't welcome, I knew there was no coming back from this. She had chosen her side, and it wasn't mine. It had never been mine. Adam had always been the priority, and I had always been the one expected to sacrifice for him. But now that I refused, she saw me as nothing more than an outsider. She didn't care about the years of effort I had put into my own life. She didn't care that I had helped Adam before, that I had given him money, advice, and opportunities. She only cared that I wasn't doing it now. In her mind, I was no longer a part of this family unless I was actively making Adam's life easier. I looked around the house, the same house I had grown up in, the house where I had spent years trying to be good enough for my mother to acknowledge me the way she did Adam. Every framed picture on the wall, every piece of furniture, every inch of space held a history that now felt foreign. I thought about the nights I had stayed up studying at the old wooden dining table while Adam was out with friends, knowing that if I failed, no one would be there to catch me. I thought about the times I had overheard relatives talk about how lucky I was to be so responsible, while Adam was excused for every mistake because he just needed time to find himself. I thought about the birthdays and holidays where I sat through stories of Adam's ideas, his potential, his charm, while my own accomplishments were brushed aside. And now, after all these years, my mother was making it clear. None of it had mattered. She didn't beg me to stay. She didn't ask me to reconsider. She just turned away, as if dismissing me from her life was as easy as blaming me for Adam's failures. I knew Adam wouldn't care. He had never cared. He took what was given to him and moved on to the next thing, the next idea, the next person who would enable him. He never had to face consequences, because there was always someone, our mother, an uncle, a friend, willing to clean up his mess. He would see this as just another problem that someone else needed to fix. But this time, I wasn't going to be the one to fix it. I didn't argue anymore. There was nothing left to say. I walked out of the house and didn't look back. For years, I had held on to the idea that one day my mother would see things for what they were, that she would recognize how hard I had worked, how much I had done, how much I had tried. But that wasn't going to happen. She had made her choice, and now I was making mine. As I stepped into my car, I realized something. I felt lighter. I had spent my entire life carrying the weight of expectations that were never meant for me. I had spent years trying to prove my worth to people who had already decided I would never be as important as Adam. And now, I was finally done. I had built a life without their help. I had made something of myself without relying on excuses or handouts. And if that meant I wasn't welcome in their world anymore, then so be it. As I drove away, I didn't feel regret. I didn't feel sadness. I felt freed. I didn't hear from my mother after that. No calls, no texts, nothing. She had meant what she said. I wasn't welcome, and she wasn't going to chase after me. Adam didn't reach out either, but I hadn't expected him to. He was too caught up in himself to care about anything that didn't benefit him directly. At first, I thought I might feel the loss. That cutting off my family, even under these circumstances, would leave some kind of hole. But the truth was, I felt nothing but relief. For the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying the burden of their expectations. I wasn't being told that I owed Adam something just because I had worked harder than him. In the weeks that followed, I found myself reflecting on everything that had led up to that final moment. I realized that I had spent years fighting for a place in a family that had never truly seen me as an equal. I had spent my childhood proving I was responsible, proving I was capable, proving that I was worth something. And all of it had been ignored in favor of a brother who had never put in even half the effort. I wasn't going to waste any more time trying to change their minds. There was no grand reconciliation, no dramatic moment of realization from my mother or Adam. They moved on with their lives just as I moved on with mine. From what I heard through extended family, Adam continued his usual cycle. Another failed business, another financial crisis, another round of excuses. And my mother? She continued enabling him, convinced that he just needed one more chance. But it wasn't my problem anymore. I built a life where my success wasn't a debt I owed to someone else. I surrounded myself with people who respected me for who I was, not what I could provide. And for the first time, I felt like I was living for myself, not for the expectations of a family that had never truly valued me. Walking away from them wasn't easy, but it was necessary, and I never looked back.